Well, we're going to be hopping into Ephemeron for the first game here. Both these guys currently topping their groups and looking to get out successfully into the next round, but it's always the question. I mean, actually, this could determine who gets out literally first as opposed to second. But here we are, game number 1, in the top left as the Red Terran, the machine. He is INnoVation.
And spawning over in the southeast side, playing as the Blue Protoss, playing for Team Jin Air Green Wings, it is Maru.
Maru having a bit of a struggle versus Trap, or maybe a bit more than a struggle, but Trap having a really tough time with the rest of the group, actually, whereas he has been, I mean, kind of coasting through, but now up against INnoVation, the macro god, someone who could, yeah, definitely, like Todd said, go into mech. We did see some of that in the TVT of the qualifiers here. The TY actually faced it, I think. I think Tasia's the one who did the mech. That's a throwback name.
Certainly is. For Maru going up against like any of his teammates when it comes to the Protoss players specifically, like even though I always think of Maru as like one of the best players in the world, and we've always wanted to see him versus Serral, when it comes to him versus like Trap or SOS, even when I think he's in really good form, those guys tend to get the better of him. And it's, I mean, that might come down to those are the guys that you practice with all the time. Yeah. They know all your tricks, because Maru, as strong as his micro is and as smart as he is, if he gives away his tricks and stuff to his teammates, then they can kind of know how to beat him. So starting off against Trap and losing there, I don't think it's too bad. But here, we have two very respectable builds here where you know that your opponent is very, very good. So they're both scouting early, and it looks like they're both going to go for a fairly early expand, except Maru went for the double gas. So respecting his opponent even a little bit more here. Yeah,
and I mean, I'm going to guess it's actually the factory expand, not all the way up to a 1-1-1. In fact, going up all the way to starport's almost, in my opinion, become like, meme is too strong of a word, but it doesn't happen that often. It's almost always a factory expand, a CC after barracks, or I suppose, well, a 2-Rex can happen still.
Yeah, absolutely. And usually when you see things like the SV Scout, that usually says that you're the guy going for the expansion, because you need to know if you're up against a proxy 2-Rex, you need to know what opening you have to do afterwards. Both these guys, this is really neat, by the way. A lot of people will send their SCVs completely back home, but both of them, even playing kind of defensively with an SCV, and Maru's going immediately for that Reaper. He knows how important it is, but INnoVation, he's microing very well here. Does lose one SCV.
This is actually very greedy from INnoVation. Not just like going for the CC after barracks, but then adding a reactor immediately after a Reaper. Not a second Reaper, not another Marine, and not getting a Hellion first. I mean, the factory just finished, and that will help. Okay, he did get that first, but still, the lack of barracks production can be very scary.
And look at this. Like, I dare say that INnoVation wanted to get out double Hellion after doing this opening, but he has to resort to getting out units as fast as possible. Now Maru shows up with his second Reaper as well, and this CC is super delayed here.
I mean, this is exactly why you usually see like either a second Reaper or just, I mean, delay on the reactor, basically. Unfortunately, the first fight maybe not going the way he wanted. He wanted to get the quick sight from the Reaper. Now he's forced to wait for the Hellion. The micro battle does happen here with 2 Marines and a concave. It's not too difficult for the defending player to hold on, but still losing time in the CC and losing 3 SCVs.
That is way more of an edge than Maru should have got. Like, he ran with the same army, or the same little composition up the ramp. Like, up the ramp, he was getting the shot off second there. And INnoVation just kind of got a little bit outclassed in the initial micro skirmish of this game. That being said, Maru, he still did go for a slightly later CC, which does mean that his economy is kind of going to equal out with his opponent, even though the delay was there. What, double Cyclone medevac?
Yeah, that's an odd one to me. I mean, occasionally you'll see like a tank drop, but like I actually think those are kind of bad. You know, a single tank and a medevac with a couple Marines, but 2 Cyclones coming through here. That's going to be a heck of a lot of micro potential, is what I'm thinking, coming from Maru.
And he's loaded up with 4 Marines here in a Cyclone with a second Cyclone on the way, so is he going to just send that across the map? Is it for safety back home? Honestly, I don't know at this point. INnoVation going for something far more orthodox here with the Raven first, then the Cyclones for safety, because he does have a decent number of Marines. Trying to deal damage to this setup is going to be tricky.
And the second Cyclone's coming along, but now just on the 1, the Raven could up with an auto turret, which is exactly what it's going to do. The only option it really has. Grenade bops INnoVation's units every which way, but he's got this big concave. He does have the option of pulling the SCVs if he's truly, truly desperate. This is just a very odd push.
That medevac is putting in work, by the way. Like, his units are healing constantly. Ooh, a nice lock onto the Cyclone, but a nice pickup by Maru, denying that lock-on entirely. And there's no medevac for INnoVation, so his units, when they take damage, they stay permanently damaged. And now we have 2 Cyclones, a nice little hit squad by Maru, just taking out everything from INnoVation.
That quickly snowballed when the Marines are finally done with. The Cyclone of INnoVation is just not as microable as Maru here with the medevac. Now another Raven pops out for the auto turret, but quick lock-on takes care of that. Both Cyclones still alive. The medevac finally gets taken down, but so does INnoVation's Cyclone.
Oh my gosh, this went from bad to worse. Even the Raven on the high ground gets picked off there by Maru. 37 supply against 57. Maru is bringing the heat immediately, and this isn't slowing down. He's just rallying all his units across the map, even taking a third behind the Sundergrub.
That's extreme. I mean, more Ravens on the way for both players, but Maru, just with a handful of units left over, is trying to maximize the damage here. He's taken a 14, 15, 16, gosh, keeps going on, worker lead. And he has a decent enough army, especially with the lock-on here. No, he cannot grab the tank. All right, he does get out of lock-on range. That was scary.
That certainly was. And 26 workers now against 43. INnoVation is flustered at this moment in time. He is behind in every regard. And the fact that Maru can defensively siege up at INnoVation's base and just feel so safe behind all of this, this is crazy.
Oh, the Cyclone's still there. That Raven needs to be very careful with where it positions itself. I mean, one tank shot will kill the Cyclone, so it can only go so far, but continuing to be unknowing with an auto turret. It's not going to grab 2 auto turrets, actually, but not going to grab that. No, there's, with 2 of them focus firing, that got awfully close, but good mass repair with the mules included. Maru's not letting go of this position, though, and it's still a big problem for INnoVation.
Oh, that turret did absolutely nothing against Maru there. INnoVation's orbital is actually getting really low, too. Is the tank in range of the tank? No, it isn't either. This is just costing INnoVation so much, and back at home for Maru, he's even getting the upgrades that he needs as well. The +1, the +1. Third orbital is now done. INnoVation struggling to stay alive and even loses his tanks on the low ground. GG, Maru takes a super convincing game 1.
That went from bad to worse. Wow, that was insane. You know, when I saw the 2 Cyclones, I was like, yeah, I'll do some pickup micro. He'll be like, you know, fancy Maru, and INnoVation might take some damage, but basically hang on, kind of how we describe these 2 players usually play. But then just go for a front push there, and INnoVation, I think, maybe alongside us a little bit, was like, all right, this is weird, you know, what's going on here? And then suddenly he was down to just, you know, 2 important units, a Cyclone and a Raven, which Maru just could out-micro with his, in the healing that medevac brought too. That was a very good push that I don't suggest trying at home, guys. That probably requires someone like Maru to do that.
It definitely does. I mean, the fact that he avoided all the lock-ons with all these units, he also, like, kind of forced INnoVation to pop out a turret seemingly way too early.
Yeah.
And then INnoVation fought away from the turret. And I mean, that's a huge investment in one turret that barely does anything. 200 gas, and that medevac actually single-handedly made things so nice for Maru. Not only did he get to pick up things, he got to heal his army, replenish his units, and also have high ground vision just to know that there isn't anything darting and diving on him. And I guess also it gave him the vision long range for his Cyclones to lock on for longer.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where, like, if the auto turret had been reserved for longer, if he had immediately pulled 3 or 4 SCVs and actually tried to, like, jump on top of it, would it have snowballed nearly as much? But Maru getting a very swift 1-0 here, showing a very good build and INnoVation. I mean, it did kind of start with the Reaper, really. Momentum was already in Maru's favor. Will INnoVation change things up coming into game number 2? And speaking of them, in the bottom right of Nightshade, we have the Red Terran, INnoVation.
And spawning over in the top left side, and he's bringing the heat in this series already. It is Maru.
I don't want to say this is the most important match for either one of them. As I said, this might just determine who makes it first in the group as opposed to second, or maybe they start struggling to make third. But it is worth noting that Maru did have some trouble in the last Katowice, where he barely did not make it out of the group. He was 4th, I believe. So, I mean, and we saw yesterday, these things can very quickly spiral out of control.
Oh, they certainly can. Like, both these guys went out at last Katowice, actually, and it was 2 of the guys that we were really hoping did well in that rather bad era of Terran. But here, it's nice to see that so far, they're both doing well, and they're both likely to make it out the group, given that they're 3-0 and 2-1 scores. But this could definitely make the group a little more difficult for the other players.
Yeah, I mean, considering everyone else is like 1-2, and those other matches are happening on other streams, guys. So you can keep more up to date with the scores than we can. But I mean, yeah, it can just get a little wonky. If INnoVation were to grab this one, I think he's for sure going on ahead. But Maru's looking to give him a run for that first place title. The factory expand for both players this time on Nightshade. So either INnoVation feeling like he wants to get something in return, or just wants to actually use this a bit defensively.
It's kind of cool to see how builds change over time as well. So Maru continues to scout with his opening with the double gas, which obviously he did that last time as well. But normally the SCV indicates that you're going for the Reaper expand build. So INnoVation, even though we get scouted, he knows that his opponent can play a little bit tricky, a little bit mind-gamey. And back at home, both of them took off 3 SCVs off the gas, 2 on one, 1 on the other. And that's kind of because if you have 2 SCVs on gas, you kind of get like 40% income from each one. So it's like 40%, 40%, so full 80. Rather than having 3 guys on just 1 gas, you actually get more from having 2 on one and 1 on the other.
I think everyone's asked that question, you know, like why not just 3 and 0?
Yeah, no, you actually get more from the 2 and the 1. So it's just the little things do matter at this level of play. Both of them opting to do that with the gas. So that means they get their CC up a little bit faster, given that they're mining more minerals, and they delay the starport a tad. Now, we do have a little bit of variation, I think, with the add-ons that they're both choosing. Maru opting to get those add-ons very quickly, whereas INnoVation kind of playing a little bit safer here, in which he's going to get out more units a little bit quicker.
I mean, when you do that, though, you are almost obligated to actually try and use them offensively, even if the idea maybe at first was to protect yourself. So, I mean, Maru, I believe in his micro. I'm not actually too worried. But Nightshade is one of the smaller maps we have. It can very quickly get across the map and surprise you just before something's ready to go. But Cyclone first from Maru is a very safe call.
It certainly is. And getting those 5 units out, how much has INnoVation actually scouted on this map? Because as far as I know, he's
not at all.
incredibly defensive. Like, that first game shocked him a little bit. He's like, okay, what's going to come up the ramp? I love the fact that he's defending this left side, by the way, because of the possibility of Reapers jumping into the main base. Whereas if you just defend the top and that happens, it's like, gosh, why was I defending down here in the first place anyway? 3rd gas timings by both these players, a Cyclone follow-up for INnoVation now as well, and ooh, Cloak Banshee by Maru. That's interesting considering everybody kind of gets a Raven.
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason that Banshees have fallen out of favor. I mean, when Legacy of the Void was first released, it was actually crazy stupid. People just go Banshees and who killed more workers. But then, the Raven got more and more important over time.
Zombie Grub, I love this. He's got a Hellion here to see when the army goes across the map, and then he's like, oh, maybe now I can use my Reapers, but maybe that Hellion didn't stay alive for long enough time to do that. Maybe he's got a timing in his head in which it's perfect for the Reapers to try and get a good scout in. We do have tanks joining the field for Maru with the Banshee, and a pretty darn early 3rd for INnoVation.
Yeah. But that Banshee, I mean, it's very, very hard countered, I would use the word, if the Raven and Cyclone are in position. But Maru might looking to distract with the Reapers as he pushes through the middle of the map. I mean, that would be a very weird push. Or rather, for the Banshees, I should say.
I think this is going to be mech from INnoVation, like Tom was talking about. Like, having the 4 gases before any of, getting an extra few barracks and stuff, it definitely is indicative of mech. And the fact that he doesn't have a reactor on this barracks already for producing, and look at this. Just with one of his Reapers, by the way, he does this. He goes into the main base, gets to see when the 3rd is going down. He even gets a little SCV pick off here.
I wonder if he's checking if the Banshee is a potentially clear zone. I mean, it's very likely the Banshee dies, and by the way, that's scanned pretty well timed, as the other Banshee, I think, is waiting. Yeah, if it's locked on once, it is very likely to die unless you kind of, make sure you're careful around the edges of the minerals. But he's going to send them both at the same time. He could grab a few SCVs. Is it better, though, than having as many Ravens INnoVation is building is kind of also the question we have to ask. And I guess we'll find out. But Maru is going into that stim where INnoVation does slap down that second factory. This is the map that I've last seen mech on for TVT.
It is a nice setup because all the 4 bases you can take initially are pretty darn close together. And if you have turrets at your natural kind of thing, obviously getting into the main base is pretty hard if you take this kind of triangular setup, which that makes it very nice for mech, given that getting Doom dropped isn't really a kind of losing ability here. But Yeah, just looking at the way that both these guys are playing, I love INnoVation's setup so far. He's getting the turrets, he's getting the tanks and the Vikings, he's got a few Ravens out, and he's got a faster third base. Usually one of the things you want to do as a bio player, which he has seen now, is identify it early, because then you know you can pile on a bit of pressure and what trades you can or can't take.
Yeah, the pacing gets very different. You do add on tech labs as well for Marauders, so the composition changes too, but the pacing is certainly very different. And both of them grabbing double upgrades. Staying on that seems like a mistake, staying on the orbital for Maru, but we'll ignore that. The Banshee's still not doing very much. I wonder what told him not to use it, because he didn't actually get the Reaper in until the second Banshee I felt was scanned. Okay, so he just won't even use them. I mean, they'll be able to distract, maybe stop a fourth base for a while if it's like greedily taken on location, but that was an odd opener not to try and use at all.
I think it was a lot about the fact that he got scanned and he just respects his opponent so much.
But that was the second Banshee. The first Banshee had just gone to the top right and then it stayed there.
Do you know what it also could be?
What?
Like, if you go against a mech player and you get air control, and normally you rely on Liberators and stuff to kind of like, if you have those Banshees and keep them alive for doing a push kind of thing, because he's definitely committed to this kind of air control, so maybe utilizing these Banshees for a push, that could be really cool and very patient play as well.
Yeah, I mean, that actually works against even non-mech players, right? Because if they get one tank snipe, then suddenly it does change it, mech or bio. That's very cool of Maru, because I think otherwise they were not going to do a whole lot, but maybe here they can. Triple Raven from INnoVation. That's what he was pumping out while Maru was getting these Banshees. We'll see which one ended up being better.
Oh, those tanks went a little bit too close there. These Banshees, we saw the idea being made to happen, but INnoVation so far, he is impregnable. Like, this defensive is so well set up, and that tank line, like, you can't get into the natural, you can't attack the third, and having these Ravens stay alive as well with so much energy, just trying to bust through this is going to be ridiculously difficult.
Yeah, I mean, Maru just going to take the high ground here, continuing producing barracks. Not particularly fast. Fourth CC just wants to keep the pressure on INnoVation so he also doesn't feel comfortable. But Cyclones are now out trying to grab any of the air that he can. Looks like he might grab that Banshee. Now it's going to barely get out. Oh, that was very, very close. But the rest of the air army from INnoVation, his actual air army, Vikings and Ravens, is quite intimidating. That's actually 3 full energy Ravens in just a couple seconds here.
All right, this is when it gets very scary for a bio player. Like,
right?
Now I'm looking at this thinking, I've been in this situation before and it didn't end too well for me when I was in this kind of shape. So I'm curious as to what Maru's going to do exactly. He's putting out Marines, Marauders, Vikings, double starport.
Yeah.
There we go. You can't just let the mech Terran build up because he's going to have a better ground army than you. So seeing this kind of transition, I'm curious as to whether he's just going to say, okay, I'm going to get so many Vikings out, or whether he's going to go for an early fusion core as well.
Ooh, wow. Imagine that game, man. Imagine that game where it's Battlecruiser versus Battlecruiser. 40 minutes. We could definitely use one of those games, because some of these other series have been kind of fast.
Liberators are also super good, actually, for those fights. Like, I know the anti-air damage isn't that great against, like, a cluster of Vikings and such. Yeah. That's a nice scan, by the way. Like, INnoVation's been really on point with his scan, so now he knows, like, oh, I'm against a guy that's transitioning to triple starport, am I? By the way, how often do you get a mech player that's not only, like, ahead in CCs of his opponent, but also ahead in upgrades?
Right, yeah. The mid-game is so important for the bio player, like the early to mid-game, to try and get those leads. You're supposed to have more expansions. You're supposed to have better upgrades. You're supposed to have, at some point, a bigger army that you're trying to pull and push the mech player around. But this is actually kind of been a passive game. Maru has seen no openings from INnoVation. And INnoVation is getting to the better army and is accommodating correctly for whatever tech swap Maru might be throwing out here, which it is, those starports have been used to produce just Vikings. He wants to get that edge, but then if he's going to do that, then I do think you also need to get the fusion core for those Liberators that you should also be getting, as that was moved off a tech lab. You can now do 6 times air units if you want.
INnoVation Hellbat drops. Is this like 2015 again when he was doing this with like the 4 Hellbats? But in 2 bases, this is very gnarly because as a bio player, you don't want to really be affording any economic loss. And oh no, the SCVs in the main base aren't reacting at all, and that SCV kill number is growing rapidly.
Yeah, man, that was not that great for Maru, who already, just like, and I'm gonna let my bias actually leak through here as well. But like the situation of the bio player, it just feels like you're just already so far behind, and then you lose 19 more SCVs. Like, your plan of surprise is no longer going to be a surprise, and you got to figure INnoVation knows exactly what to do against this. And it might be like, well, the good news is Thors aren't actually that great if he goes back on a bio, right? Thors really are not that bad, especially because they're going to be so well upgraded. As Maru's upgrades were, I mean, they're kind of late and they're also a bit mistimed.
I'm very impressed by INnoVation's defense and the fact that he has stayed ahead so hard in terms of like not taking damage and what have you. And this Air Force is very, very strong. Such patient play. And once he hit like the 150, 160 supply mark, he was like, okay, now it's Thors and only Thors, even going up to 8 factories at this point and still getting little bits of damage done against Maru with the Hellions like this. You can't allow this to happen. He even sees the orbital command here as well, by the way, so he knows that later on he can continue to send Hellions over here.
Yeah, exactly. Very bold move. Probably a move that Maru had to take, but losing 16 more SCVs puts him down by 13. He might get a bigger army, but he is replacing them. He has gotten into Liberator production. He has a fusion core for the Lib range as well, but it does get tricky against those Thors, you know? Like, and just, oh my gosh, the air army of INnoVation started rather big, and it's still pretty big. Geez, 20 Vikings to 18, but then the 3 Ravens, untouched throughout this entire game.
6 Thors. I mean, do you want them in anti-air mode? In fact, when you have that many, you can like absolutely mix them up to the big shot or the splashdown and just making the life of Maru even harder. But Maru's economy has definitely been, well, it's not where he wants it at all. At this point, as a bio play, you want to have a little bit of map control and you want to be throwing down way more CCs just to get that little bit of an edge there. And we can't forget, given that Maru, or rather INnoVation, is playing mech here, those upgrades for his air units are also going to be significantly better than his opponent. This is a rough spot to be in. Yeah,
ideally Maru's at a really great economy to actually get double upgrades himself, but not going to happen. Interference Matrix taking out some of Maru's tanks, and anti-air missile just blanketing the Vikings of Maru, but those Thors, I believe they're in single target mode right now, are crushing through the air, crushing through the ground, and Maru has dipped significantly in supply.
Wow, INnoVation cut through that army very, very easily there. He's still very close to maxed out. He's got 4 bases. In fact, is that a 5th base on the right side as well? No, just a barracks floating around. But now he's like throwing down way more units. That's 3 tanks, 2 Thors, 2 Vikings, 2 Hellions at a time, and 3-3 is getting close. Maru has to slow this down somehow. But how do you slow it down? Maru runs in with a large concave. He's actually taken out quite a few of the Thors in the front line. But those tanks at the back are dealing so much damage, and INnoVation ties up the series here.
I mean, that was gross. You know, I feel like there's more than a couple of Terran players in that game, and they were like, man, how is Maru going to do this? Like, I struggle against mech too. And it's like, Maru really did not show us the way.
That's pretty much how it goes, you know. if the Terran can get away with it and not really take any damage, and also, you as a bio player don't really take any risks, it's just, you're behind. Like, he took his 3rd base later, and nothing really worked out for him. And we see Maru with a big sigh there. And it's like, man, I hope he doesn't do that again in the next game, because that's pretty darn tricky to beat.
Yeah, it very much so was. But that's something that's INnoVation, I mean, not just excels at generally, you know, as a play style, as a Mac-oriented player, we can kind of consider him like mech-ish, even though he obviously plays bio very well. But then he not only changes it up, like just to change it up, it's like that first game, the momentum started with Maru and continued with Maru because INnoVation, I mean, he was playing a little bit greedy. He could have gotten a bunker. He could have actually pulled the SCVs, as I said, to try and get that early, to stop that early lead. But then the next game, he's just like, you know what, very safe. Factory expand as well, going into even more units, which maybe puts me behind in this way, but I catch up in this way. And then, I mean, really, like, almost nothing happened in that game. So INnoVation just making sure he stays like totally safe and then gets to the better army, because that's what happens in those mech games. But is that just a map specific thing, or is Maru going to 2 racks? I actually know the answer to that one, guys. That was a cheat. That was a cheat.
We will be getting into the 3rd game of this series between these 2 insanely skilled Terrans. And in the past, INnoVation's kind of eked out little victories over Maru. I think he's tended to have a bit of a stronger TVT. But stylistically, like, they just clash in a beautiful, beautiful way. And getting into the first game, spawning in the top left, it is INnoVation.
In the bottom right. And accelerate this. Not wanting that last game to happen ever again. It is the blue Terran, Maru, going for the proxy racks.
It's very, I mean, this is just Maru in a nutshell. Like TVT, he's like, you know what? I'm going to invent the 2-racks, and also with the macro follow-up. I remember that GSL title where he played. Oh my god.
Oh.
Is this happening?
Oh, it's happening. Oh, it's happening. INnoVation was, I mean, he didn't have a lot of scouting last game. In fact, really none, but he did make sure to send an SCV out in a common proxy racks location, because even though he's going for a factory expand, it still makes you even more safe, more mentally prepared. And this time, guess what it finds? 2 racks. Can't really stop it, it looks like. Well, it can stall it out, that's for sure. And another SCV's on the way, so maybe he can stop it. But it's down to a 1 racks. That would not be very good for Maru. The micro battle is real, trying to get the nice little Sim City to work out for the SCV, trying to repair it. No, it's not going to work. INnoVation has stalled this out considerably while getting his factory, getting his own Reapers, and Maru's got to go to plan B.
Yeah, and I mean, when you get that scouted so darn early, it is not a good feeling. Maru back at home is getting his second gas. He's now producing 2 Reapers at a time, but he knows his opponent knows exactly what he's doing. His first Reaper will pop a little bit earlier than his opponent, but this is just a numbers game at this point. Like, he can't really win this fight, can he? And no, he cannot. He goes home with his tail behind his legs.
I mean, we know that Maru is very capable of just kind of making something come back. You know, his control of the game, his micro, his decision making. He can try and make this work, but this is a bad start. I do like the idea a lot because this is what favored him in that first game, just a little bit later. And the 2 racks really is the fastest thing you can do in professional games, I guess, opposed to SCV scouting or pulling. But the Reaper battle does not go well for Maru, not well enough. He just needs to tap that 1 Reaper.
This is really risky, though, by both of them. That Reaper does survive by INnoVation, and so far he hasn't taken too many losses. Maru just diving in like that, despite getting shot at the start of entering up the ramp. That is just crazy play. Reckless, but you have to get away, or you have to do reckless plays when you're in a situation like this.
Yeah, absolutely. The earliest aggression possible not working out for Maru so far, but I do believe it is a possible comeback. You know, sometimes leaving those Reapers or continuing to build Reapers can be a surprise, leaving the Reapers somewhere and then trying to make sure to get them in for some SC vehicles, even if it is a little bit later, can be effective. INnoVation, though, seems to be just totally on top of everything. He just actually chases into the barracks. That will be up a ramp, so pretty dangerous to do. And he's not going to actually commit. He's going to go into a Banshee. A Cyclone is going to help with the defense too, but the Banshee, will Maru actually have something to account for that? He should, as he's finally getting that barrack scouting.
I was very surprised that Maru was going up to, like, you know, his 6 or 7 Reapers just then when he was producing 2 Reapers off each barracks, but now he goes in there, he gets some vision, he's going to have the barracks there for quite some time as well, so he'll get to see, hopefully, what pops out of that starport. Should survive for long enough. Back at home, he's trying to get a Cyclone. He did get an earlier second CC out of all of this.
Yeah, that's very true. The tech up all the way up to a starport from INnoVation as opposed to trying to, I mean, play a little greedy and go for his own command center. But that will give him the option of Banshees, doing something with those. Maru, you know, might have a Cyclone. He's actually getting the Cyclone upgrade as well. But if he is going to get a Raven, that will be a little farther off. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible Maru perfectly defends, has his own CC on location, faster, and this game somewhat normalizes.
That's the beauty of TVT. Like, you can take such different entrances to the game, like the proxy 2 racks, the expansion build, the double gas, and you'll pretty much end up in the same spot. Make no mistake about it, INnoVation's definitely a little bit ahead here, and these Banshees can get a lot of work done, because you have to think about every scan that Maru throws down is just less mineral mining that he's going to be doing in the long run. So we'll see what both of them follow up with. And whoa, yeah. INnoVation going for the leapfrog technique. I do actually like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried for Maru here. I think the idea was to get a Raven, you know, knowing that the Banshees were on the way, but then he actually afforded the Cyclone upgrade and didn't have a fast 3rd gas. Like, he just finished that. So the Raven coming out, starting only just now, as INnoVation sets up for an attack. The Banshees just on the front line can be brutal, but like, Maru should have a scan available, that's for sure, and he will have that upgrade for the Cyclones. Is that going to be enough? Maybe an SCV pool as well in case things get very, very hairy? I was going to try. There's the scan. The Banshees have already moved away, though. They're going to come back in as the Cyclone lock-ons to INnoVation's miscellaneous units, his Reapers and Marines. This makes the Banshees a little more effective. They do take out 1, 2 Cyclones, barely not grabbing that last one. There we go. The SCVs are pulled into this, but...
Oh, the scan wore out on that Banshee just as he locked onto it. The Reapers, though, do take out all the ground units, and now we have a Raven popping out too. Maru holds that. I mean, losing 12 SCVs, though, that was obviously a really decent trade for Maru, but he could have been really dead there.
That's the type of battle you really got to go back, rewind, and check out exactly what happened, you know? INnoVation, like, he knew this game was going to come, so he moves the Banshees away to make sure they don't get the lock-on, and then he comes back in when the lock-on is basically wasted. Like, that is just so... That is, I mean, that's pro gamers, right? That's just, I would never be able to do that.
This is actually really cute. There's nothing really that mobile for INnoVation, and these 3 Reapers, they are getting quite a bit of damage done here, and the Reapers almost like, well, they're just darting around. They made the turret quite a bit harder to plant as well, and that's a nice cleanup by INnoVation, but that's definitely something that can get Maru back into the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's certainly something, and the Reapers aren't going to do anything else. It's not going to really help on a main engagement. So bringing the SCV is a bit closer, but still a 6-worker difference. INnoVation's 3rd CC is already done. In fact, already in orbital being floated over. He is once again going to mech, and Maru's not going to have a very strong, I don't know what you want to call this, early mid-game. It's not very strong right now.
This is super dangerous, by the way. Cyclones deal so much damage to CCs, and you're seeing that right here, especially with the mag field lock-on. Oh, he lost vision. He sent the Raven to the main base. I mean, it was kind of... Oh, he's going to go for the tank. Yeah,
he's going to get it.
Tank. That's a counter turret to counter these turrets.
Do they prioritize each other? I'm actually not sure how that works. I guess not, because they killed the SCVs. Anyways.
Oh, I think he was actually just like focus firing.
That's very true. That's probably what he did. Auto turrets have one of the highest priorities, guys. It's one of the weird factors about them.
And the madness of all of this game, Zombie Grub, is that Maru's actually super evened up the work.
Right?
He's now got his 3rd CC out as well. So despite a sickeningly good early game from INnoVation, he's turned everything around here, which is insane.
No, it's absolutely, you're right. Like that delay in the 3rd CC, getting the tank, getting the SCVs, like he really has brought it back to a little more even. But I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening because it's a bit of a throwback. We had Cyclone versus Cyclone earlier, like last year, 2 years ago. We might have it again. Actually, interference switch on the tank. Maru's going to go for the kill on that.
Oh no, is Maru actually making magic happen here? The 4 Cyclones, they run in, they try and take out the tank here. The lock-ons do happen. There's nothing that INnoVation has that can shoot back. This is monumental play by Maru in this TVT. The Raven even falls. There's nothing that INnoVation can do. He's just chasing with SCVs, but these Cyclones, they're microed by Maru. 2 Hellions show up, but what are they going to do? He keeps the low health Cyclone at the back here, and INnoVation, I don't know how this has happened.
How does Maru do this? The lock-ons go, and it's a little bit of a wonky fight right there. The Ravens are kind of out of the equation as they are low energy, so INnoVation knew he was eventually going to be able to push this back, but Maru went from being down in SCVs, later 3rd CC. His army also, I didn't think was that different, so they're just utilizing it so well. INnoVation unable to actually keep that tank alive, but now I think one thing he still has is his faster production, and he finally has the upgrade to match Maru's upgrade, so he's going to try and take this fight. Auto turret's available, however, and that is going to send INnoVation back home. But wow, Maru now up a couple SCVs, just a couple, but considering where he was, this is amazing.
We're not out of the woods yet. Like, this is still really close between both of them. Maru's landed his 3rd, but so is INnoVation. And their work account, despite all this chaos that's gone down, they're pretty darn close. 100 supply gates, 101. And Zombie Grub, they're both going mech in this game, which is super insane to see.
Yeah, it's really a throwback. Like, there used to be a Cyclone period, and it was absurd, you guys. But we're kind of stuck. Like, eventually they might go into tanks, and whoever does successfully is probably going to be better off. But when it's come to Cyclones, I mean, imagine what just happened with Maru and on top of his tank, but on a grander scale, that can still happen. So Maru, as he starts tanks here, could be taking a bit of a risk. Could be, if INnoVation finds the right time. But INnoVation, perhaps a more passive player. Well, nope, not here. That's actually, is this the time? Is this the time? 3 less Cyclones for Maru. But his Raven's a little low on energy, but SCV pool going to buy just enough workers, army to actually hold on there. But that's a scary thing that can happen. INnoVation's not transferring over into tanks.
Haha, damage being done on the other side of the map here. So Maru is trying to stabilize with tanks to get a little bit of a hold defensively, whereas INnoVation, he's just all about that map control. He's getting lots of Cyclones so he can dart around and maybe take a 4th base a little bit earlier than his opponent. This Viking continues to be annoying as well.
Yeah, in those, again, wonky battles in the earlier meta, like, you would just have the Cyclone player kind of mass expand. They'd take control of the map, they'd threaten any expansion you could get, even if if you're very careful with it. Imagine 12, 15 Cyclones locking onto a command center for even 5 seconds. It actually dies, guys. So you have to be very careful as Maru, actually, in this situation. But he has gotten a couple of tanks. He is the first one to go into double armories, as well as a faster fourth. He caught sight of that Liberator and will have units in position for that.
That's really nice. Like, both of them see what the other one's up to with their harass. Different kinds of harass, but they're both meeting each other to shut the other one down. Nice by INnoVation, by the way, realizing, like, okay, I'm against one of the best Terrans in the world because I'm the other best Terran in the world, basically. You see me, I've obviously seen you. And he kind of backs off with that Liberator for another day.
Crazy we're seeing this. And by the way, both of them have just gone back into totally Cyclones. And the Cyclone lock-on is not affected by the attack upgrade, guys, but the regular attack is, and of course everything else about mech does take advantage of that. But usually the priority is on the armor, but they're both going to double armor, just Maru a bit quicker. He's going to find a pretty defenseless SEV line, but quick pull from INnoVation, because something more important is happening on the right side. Raven's still available for Maru, always going to be able to help, something that INnoVation does not have himself.
That was a lot of turrets. I feel that Maru kind of threw too many down for that fight. Obviously, it's a very scary moment, but 1 or 2 turrets, or even 3, can kind of do the same job as 6. They're going to make your opponent run away.
Odd place to put your armories. They are delayed a little bit. But yeah, finally back onto those tanks. A little more of a typical mech about to happen in about maybe like 90 seconds here. One tank can also really help anchor these fights defensively for Maru. He's even got a little bit of a wall trying to help out. A lock-on does go on top of one tank, but not the other. INnoVation, I don't think he's going to be able to break Maru's defenses now. Like, there's just... I know it's kind of absurd, but like 1 or 2 tanks not being touched is really key in these types of battles.
I like this too by Maru, just kind of throwing a random depot at the top of his bases just to see where the army is of his opponent. Throws down a scan to see that INnoVation is taking that top 12 o'clock base as his 4th as well, which a little bit unusual, I guess, but kind of makes sense. He wants to have as many bases forward as possible, given that he's the one playing for map control here with this very, very movable style. But back at home, he's kind of switching to this slower mech, and actually, he's just forcing out. Like, he's being so aggressive against Maru.
Yeah, I mean, he did have Cyclones for more consistently, I suppose, and he did take advantage of them, even if the fights didn't go so well he won the game. So he's had the map control, and now he can even use that to actually, rally tanks forward to try and really stall out the expansion process of our blue Terran. A couple of Ravens were locked on. One finally does go down, but Maru pushing now aggressively, finding an opportunity here. Did INnoVation spend too long on the map?
I think he has. Maru is hunting him down, and he's getting good lock-ons, but those are a lot of tanks. So INnoVation isn't going to die anytime soon, but now it's Maru with map dominance.
Yeah, there's, I mean, I quickly flipped on him, actually. The 4th CC looks like it's going to be safe for now, but he needs to get more tanks out here. Upgrades, by the way, done for Maru, and still 2 Ravens alive. INnoVation feeling a little bit scared at this point. His upgrades would also be under fire if he lost control of the 3rd.
You know, these armories, they kind of block INnoVation from actually getting next to his mineral line and going around the top here, or the orbital. Oh no, the orbital.
Oh,
is it going to fall? What? He just had vision, he just had vision.
Okay.
Okay, there it goes. That last hit there, and INnoVation loses his 12 o'clock base to a little Cyclone hit squad as well. And look at the face of INnoVation. His, like, static face just went to a little, oh dear, what's happening to me?
Yeah, I just blew, like, his, like, cheek out a little. Okay. That did happen in quite a flash, and he had an extra couple seconds to lift that CC too. Very unfortunate. He tries a desperate lock on his opponent's 3rd command center, but that does not work out. INnoVation, wow, that went from, like, 10, 15 supply difference to very quickly upwards to 50. Upgrades might not matter here. He's got to have the best tank positioning and turtle, really, but he's going to try and at least catch Maru in the middle before he's really sieged up. At least keep his 3rd location alive, even though it's no longer his 3rd CC.
Oh, this is really bad for Inno at this point. Like, he's outnumbered, he's outgunned. Maru has a better army and more of it, and Maru, like, look at this, he's getting into a great position here. He's kind of locked outside his base. Those 3 siege tanks take such a good position. And INnoVation, what can he do against the might of Maru here? Maru taking a fight on the right side as well. He is just dominating INnoVation from left, right, and center, but that is a lot of Hellions dealing a lot of counter damage. Chaos everywhere. INnoVation is fighting back with everything that he has, but Maru, is there just too much of him at this point?
This is so weird. INnoVation really trying to bring this back. back. He's going to mass repair that command center, but the tanks have got get a little farther north. It looks like he's cleaned up the attack on the left side as well. Somehow, I guess Maru is dipping a little too close, flying too close to the sun. Suddenly has lost that supreme lead of supply. He still has more SCVs, but the army has evened up.
These armories, again, the tanks can't fit through there. They can't get into a nice position to defend the orbital entirely. I think that's quite a mistake by INnoVation, because it's made quite a few of these holds way more difficult for him. That being said, he's very far behind in SCVs now, and Maru is still on 4 bases mining with, I believe, 4 orbital commands very soon against just the 2 of INnoVation.
I mean, 4 tanks is very scary. Maru is going for, I mean, he basically turned back into battle mech to try and rally forward and really get the kill. But the tanks can take effective trades against this if they are sieged. And that's something that's very difficult for INnoVation. He doesn't have many units protecting those 4 tanks. He just doesn't have enough units. So even though the counter seems like it could work, the army looked maybe a bit better, Maru has quickly used that economy that was still in his favor to just get too many units. And now he's going to take out another command center.
And this goes from bad to worse for INnoVation. He's down to just 1 orbital at this point. And Maru, with this kind of guerrilla warfare style, just kind of fighting here, there, and everywhere, does get quite a flank here on these Cyclones, so they won't live to see another day, but INnoVation, he's in such a rough spot here.
And 4 tanks, I mean, if Maru just, I guess, runs up a ramp and a choke, like, I guess they can do well, but they should just get surrounded. They should get concaved on. INnoVation desperately trying to use 3 Cyclones against the 6 or 7 of Maru. Now, inferior upgrades too.
How did this random tank hit what get over here? But Maru is quick to the lift, and they don't seem to be getting much damage done. I think this is near the end of INnoVation in this series. Maru just too strong, too powerful. NGG. Maru takes a 2-1 victory over Inno.
I mean, this all started from a pretty much, I mean, is it called a failed 2-rack? Is always questionable when you have Maru in the equation, but INnoVation, he had learned from his mistakes in the first game, played a perfect mech game in the second game, and the third, I mean, thought he had a good edge in the beginning. Turns out that's not the case. Maru just so, I mean, aggressive and just so good at determining when he has leads, where he can find them. This has been an amazing TVT, guys, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more in a little bit. But first, a break. Thank you so much for watching IEM.